I'd say first, there's definitely a difference here in terms of like taking a gap year versus job hopping between companies. So if there's like a long break, that would probably be a gap year where people are just taking some time away from their job, like their typical job and things like that, but they're still doing something productive, either like a personal passion project or something like that. And then there's job hopping. I think there might be a small increase in job hopping here. I haven't heard about it much like around me, but I know that a lot of people talk about it on social media. And I think generally gap years and job hopping are both seen as a positive thing. I guess now older generations are advocating for job hopping. It's definitely not considered as like I don't know. I think a lot of people see it as like a potential strategic move. So it definitely depends on what career path you're on. But for example, in technology, it can be an opportunity to take on a higher role at a new company. Maybe you want to work at a startup, or maybe you want to work at FANG. So FANG is Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. So those are like very big corporations. So some people want experience there, or they want to work in a startup. So being able to job hop between FANG or a startup or like another company, you can kind of gain more experience in different tasks, and so you can kind of build your resume. So I think it's more of a positive thing here, even if job hopping might be increasing. Yeah, I think young people in the US mainly go for apartments that you rent. So that renting apartments has its own kind of, I guess, challenges. Financially, it can be tough in terms of having like a credit score or something like that. A lot of landlords or people who are renting out apartments, they want to see some sort of credit history. Kind of how good are you at like spending your money? How trustworthy are you? And I think because of that, a lot of people have to depend on their parents. So their parents have to be either co-signers, or the parents have to have good credit scores. But if the parents don't have good credit scores, then that affects the kids. So that system kind of depends on having a good relationship, I guess, with your parents or your family. But I think a lot of the challenges also comes with negotiating whether you want a lower cost or whether you want to be in a safer or a closer apartment. So I know a lot of, I don't know about Korea. I feel like Korea is relatively safe, but in America, there's like a lot of unsafe neighborhoods. And so if you want lower rent, sometimes you have to sacrifice your safety. But also that means that you have longer commutes, and commutes are still pretty pricey because we don't really have very reliable public transportation here. So if you live further from work, you have to usually have a car, and you have to pay for a lot of gas. And so commutes can be really pricey in terms of money and also in terms of time. So I think that's mainly kind of the struggles that students and like graduate students face in terms of apartments. There are definitely some young people who jump straight into the housing market. So they want to buy houses, but I think probably in Korea too, like the cost is increasing here. But everyone's wages are relatively the same, or they're increasing at a lower rate. So the gap between like how affordable a house is versus how much money you have is kind of increasing. And also a lot of young people here have student loans because education is so expensive here. So student loans often lower your credit history or your credit score. And so when you have lower credit score, you're less likely to be approved for a house. And also a lot of young people here, when they're pursuing a career, they don't really buy houses. Because college, medical school, graduate school, those kinds of like education programs are typically all over the US. So you might go to college in New York, but then you might go to medical school in California. So there's no point in like buying a house. So 2005 and 2015. So I don't know what might have influenced the birth rate declining, but I know like right now there's a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen to the economy, especially like with the president that we have. Our economy is kind of unpredictable, I'd say, and so there's a lot of anxiety behind it, and because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of couples are scared or like nervous to have like kids at this time because there's a lot of job insecurity. People don't know whether they're going to be laid off like in the next month or not. There's also like questions about whether child support is going to decrease, so maybe the government might become less supportive financially of people with kids. So I think the reasons are probably mostly economic. And also like generally I'd say that people are starting to prioritize their education and career a bit more, and they might want to have a very established career before they have their kids. So, in terms of the difference between college life and the US, I would say, like when I studied abroad in Korea, there was a very supportive study abroad community, so I didn't mingle too much with the Korean students. I hung out with a lot of study abroad students, so I don't know too much about like how Korean students kind of talk to each other and how they have socials or parties and things like that. But what I can tell is that kind of the social life in America and in China are very different on college campuses. So, for example, in the US, you typically take maybe like 4 classes per semester at your school, and each course typically has lectures and discussion sections. So lectures are usually maybe 3 hours a week. You meet like 3 times a week, 1 hour each. And that's where the instructor just pretty much teaches you. So that's where you like take notes and things like that. But we also have something called discussion sections, which I don't know if Korea has. But in this discussion section, it's usually, you meet once a week. It's usually around 1 hour long. The point of the discussion section is to do group work. So you guys get together in groups and you maybe solve a worksheet together. Or there's usually around 20 people in that classroom. And sometimes you guys just sit all together and you guys just talk about questions that you have. And so it's a very collaborative environment. And you're encouraged to make friends within the class and things like that. But when I was in Korea, so maybe it differs by major, but I took like a biology class. And we only had lectures. We met twice a week, and the instructor just talks to the kids. And the students don't talk amongst each other. And so I was like, well, if I have a question, like in America, if you have a question about an assignment or something, usually you go to your friends first. But I feel like in Korea, because of the way the classroom is set up, you go to the instructor first. And I feel like the way that American classes are set up, it kind of preps you for America's workforce, because in America you're like people call it soft skills, but your soft skills are like your personality, how well you can talk to other people. That is valued very highly here. So some people, they call it personality hire, but some people are hired purely because they're so good at talking and they're so good at like working with each other. I think American students and Korean students are probably equally social. I just found it kind of funny when I was at Yonsei, and it was around like the festival season. There was like a walk at Yonsei that like kind of goes up, but they were just like stands set up, and they were just selling alcohol to like the students, and people were drinking on campus. But that's such a like foreign concept in America, because the drinking age is a lot older here, so clubs are not allowed to advertise socials that have alcohol and things like that. So I think the situations in which students bond is a bit different. I think Americans kind of have to rely on socializing without alcohol, and so you really have to like, I don't know, be very vulnerable, but maybe in Korea with alcohol you can be a little bit more free. And I think that was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I think the Korean like college kind of drinking alcohol like at the festival, college festival is that more like it's more strict than before. Like over like 10 years ago, like 10 years ago, they drink more alcohol than today's here. Like, yeah, getting more strict, but yeah, still drinking alcohol at the college festival is pretty common. Like in my major, like media contest, it means like you have to make your own video or your own movies or something. So I have more kind of group working than other majors, but still we have a lot of lectures that's only listening. So like I was thinking like I'm here just learning how to film. What is the filming history? So like, what the heck?
Soft skills?
Yeah, soft skills is more or less important in Korea, I think. They only want to hear about how much your expertise. Yeah, my dance.